The worst thing they could say is no, and that's the biggest thing that people don't understand because it just sucks. And the worst thing they could always say is no. And so it's gotten to the point where I always be like, well, the average person can't afford my operation costs to do business because they don't understand. They're like, oh, look, they look at a number, they're like, oh, shoot, you're getting a lot of money. If, let's say, my billable rate's $150, $200 an hour, which it has to make sense to cover all these other expensive software. For the average person right now, it's not biting. So after talking to Mike Andes, and that's basically, he said there's always going to be obstacles in the way. There's always going to be gas. There's always going to be political things, and we always got to be able to adapt. So now I'm like, okay, so well, with my skills, I could do prevailing wage, I could do big commercial progress, or I could start small and get small little TIs that are literally moving. You got to keep in mind, a week on prevailing wage is like $6,000 a week. I even have a calculator that Claude built me, and it tells me my hourly. And the thing about why I actually went and applied for my DIR number now, because I was like, I went and did what any other hustler does, where it's just hard to lose when you don't give up. And that's what I like about Alex Hormozi, where it's a weird one where Mike Andes is like, don't, everyone's getting low-key depressed, and everyone's just, you're getting beat by the economy. And then you get to the Alex Hormozi mindset, and it's like, and you're like, good, I'm happy that everyone is hurting, because then poor everyone else. And you could get into that mindset of, hey, everyone else is hurting and they're all going through the same thing, so the only thing to do is to dominate. And I see this too because I've been growing my social media on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and we've just been doing all of it, and it's been working. And it's crazy because then I see my local competitors are now trying to do the same thing, where now they're trying to grow their social medias, and it's like, dude, once you get a lead, it's hard to catch up. And this is one of those things where I don't want to do prevailing wage because, number one, most of them are going to net 60 you. What is net 60? That means before you see one day, before you see a paycheck or any day, any payment, any source of payment, you're going to almost wait 60 days before you get paid. So imagine if I got to fund two guys, we're funding around $40,000 a month. And let's say we're busy for 2 months. That means I got a cash flow just for two guys around $80,000 before I see one single dollar to get paid. So that's why everyone mostly stays away from prevailing wage. Number two, if you're under big prevailing wage, you got to keep in mind, you can't go and hire an apprentice and pay him less money. Once it's certified payroll, you once you connect two pipes, you're considered a plumber. And the only way you could get away paying less than journeyman wages is for you to have an indentured apprentice, which I used to be, I was an indentured apprentice, and legally you could make some money off your apprentices. But then you gotta sign up for the program, for the apprenticeship program, and then you gotta have indentured apprentices, a whole big other deal. So if you underbid on prevailing wage, you're also gonna lose a hell lot of money. But the only thing that I have that could make me an advantage is, like, I don't have a crazy ass overhead like the other guys, where I could do a small little TI on a public works, which is sometimes it's literally like roughing in one bathroom. Like, you'll be surprised that's the whole TI. And roughing off that bathroom is 80 man hours. But at 80 man hours at prevailing wage, and all that wages, next thing you know, like, I'll show you the calculator how much it is, but you're looking at those crazy numbers where it's almost impossible. And then you got to cash flow that, which is why no one wants to touch these type of projects. But it puts me everyone in a weird position, right? The big commercial companies, they're like, dude, like, you really want me to go and move one toilet, like, and send a truck over there, so it's not really worth it. For me, it's like, dude, if I got to do it, I got to certify payroll myself and pay myself prevailing wage. I was like, dude, that's basically getting a job. So I'm looking at it that way. So either I go get a job, work at prevailing wage, and have a good thing, or I could leverage this unique spot, like sweet spot, where I could go to the contractor and be like, look, I could just wipe out all the profit, and I just basically, you need to pay me, and not net 60 me, but pay me right away, because I can't cash flow a month of prevailing wage. And it's gonna be a weird position where it's like, look, I could TMI you and charge you what it is, because now I registered, I should have all the right paperwork to do these type of works, to do this type of jobs, and they gotta like sponsor me, which it's kind of weird to say, because people actually do this stuff. Like it's weird, because everyone says no one's gonna do this, and it's weird to believe. It's hard to believe that no one's gonna do that unless you try it. And then the worst thing they could say is always no. They could always be like, no, we're not gonna front you the money, which is not really fronting me. It's just eliminating their net 60, because you'll be surprised how many contractors always trying to hit me with that, like, dude, we connect. I'm like, dude, I really can't work for you. Like, I wish I could work for you. And that's the thing, where everyone, like, there's so much work out there, but everyone wants to do net 30, net 60, net 90, and they want me to be the bank. And I'm like, dude, my company's called US Plumbing, not US Bank. And then it becomes a whole ordeal where I'm not a plumbing contractor, I'm a bank. And you're just giving free money, interest-free money to people. But I'm in a weird position where I have the talent to do small little commercial TIs, but it's willing to sell your souls and go and leverage that. Like, hey, this is what I could offer. You get a discount, less overhead. I basically get a job. I get to learn public works and slowly scale this, because when it's prevailing wage, everyone's bidding the same and everyone's getting paid great. So there's really no there's no margin error. And what I see, and especially my friends and my guys that do prevailing wage, if you get a horrible foreman, they always lose fucking money. It's like, it's crazy, because the guys are getting paid so much money. If you underbid on man hours, then you're also losing prevailing wage. So it's a weird one where no one even wants to touch prevailing wage because of like those two reasons. Number one, they're like, yeah, we're gonna net 60 you before you get paid. I'm like, ugh. Like, everyone's like, fuck that. Unless you're a big company, like, you cash flow it, and then they're like, all right, let's do it. But most of the guys most other contractors, like, dude, I'm not gonna cash flow 60 to 80 grand on the low end. If we get even a bigger project, it's going to be worse. But this is the type of skills I have. So if I don't take the leap of faith and go for it right now, then I never will. And then I'm just going to keep doing excuses. So I went ahead and did this. And then I'm reaching out. It's a weird position, because everyone says beggars can't be choosers. But basically, I'm like begging for work. And at the same time, like, well, yeah, I could do this, but these are the terms and conditions for it to work. And it's all about leverage, you know. There's going to be a big contractor that's like, dude, I'm fucking tired of these guys, that we need to move this plumbing, and they keep, you know, pushing me back. We don't get the good response. Like, let's take this deal. And there's people out there that will take that deal. But to find that deal is going to be very hard, and I just need to go and do commercial. And then when I do the residential and service sides, then it's pretty cool. Because I do have commercial clients, and I'm like, dude, I need to get paid. You know, you want to order a water heater that's 20 grand, and you want me to go in and fund it? That doesn't make sense. And a lot of people, they understand, and a lot of people don't. But they said these are the rules. You can't collect more than 10%. That only applies to a homeowner. And I tell people, like, dude, I have commercial clients that have paid me like 60-70%, especially when most of the 80-70% of the stuff is literally your big equipment. Like, I could install your $30,000 water heater. I just can't go and get you a $30,000 water heater, because what if you don't want to pay me? And then I just let some random company borrow $30,000. And I'm like, I am not in no financial state that where I could let random people borrow $30,000, especially for you to operate. So that's where I'm taking it, where, like Mike said, like, hey, you know, switch up the business model. And that's where I'm at, where I'm seeing it's like, fuck, the average person does not want it's not just me. Like I said, everyone else is just sitting at home. Public works, it's not gonna end, and it's a weird thing where no one wants to do public works because of those same reason. People underbid. Number two, cash flow. That's, you think net 30 is bad, they try to net 60, net 90 you. So then it's net 60, net 90 plus you gotta legally pay your workers crazy amount of money, which is livable wages, which I agree. We live in California. Like, for me to survive, this is a livable wage. But that number, we're talking about 40,000. Like, I'll show you the little calculator that Colin made where I show, like, yeah, keep in mind, on a 40 man hour work week, um, that's one person. Like, let's say two guys, so it's 80, you times it by 40. So I'll show you what it looks like a week, a month. A week, a month, a year. If it was just straight up labor, how much it would be. And that's why no one wants to do public works. So it's gonna be a weird position where I gotta go in there and sell myself and be like, this is what I gotta offer. If you tell me to fuck off, I will. But right now, people, they don't understand. Like, the average homeowner doesn't understand the amount of hourly I gotta charge to stay in business. So it's gonna be a weird position where maybe I could leverage it, and usually it does work. It doesn't, and like I said, the worst thing they could say is no. But their commercial guys have plenty of fucking work. It just sucks because they always try to net 30, net 60, and I'm like, that just leaves me in the same fucking problem with just cash flow. And that's where a lot of people that start businesses, they're like, I'd like never start a business. And also, it's a race to the bottom. It's people don't hire for quality of work. They hire for price per bid, and they don't really care. All they care about is the bid. And then if you underbid, you lose a shitload of money, which has happened to me before. So, but at this rate, I'm like, I don't see anything better, and I know what to do, and I feel like this is my strong suit. But just, I don't know, maybe the generals are more desperate than me, and then they need a fucking plumber to do small little TIs. You gotta keep in mind, a small little TI for a commercial is like 30 to 50 grand, and I could do about 4 to 5 of those, so it's like 200 grand. So it's a pretty good business to get into. It's just I gotta make the payment schedule and the terms of payment for myself, which is like, it's kind of fucking rude. Like, who the fuck do you think you are, walking into our building and then negotiating your terms? It's like, it's fucking rude at the same time, but like I said, it's like the worst thing they could say is no. And being an entrepreneur is just constant fucking rejection. But I know I know the issue that I'm solving, and I know the numbers, and I'm like, dude, like you help me, I help you. It's not like I'm trying to go over here and like choose my exact terms. It's just like, here's the facts. Like, this is what I gotta offer. This is what I can offer you. If you want to do it, yes. If not, then I get it. It's like no harm. There's no, like, literally, my feelings are not gonna get hurt, because they always hit you with like, this is how business is run. This is how the construction industry has always been running. And that's true with every fucking business until you got a fucking entrepreneur that changes it and then changes the fucking rules. You gotta keep in mind, like, one of the biggest things about the banking system, where the banks always call me, they're like, hey, how come you don't do this and do this and that? And I was like, dude, because when I run PayPal, when someone pays me through the phone, my funds are there instantly. And when I go through the bank and then someone gives me a $5,000-$10,000 check, you put a 2-week hold. I'm like, how the fuck am I gonna operate? Even when the customer does pay me, you guys decide to put a hold on my funds. So either, like, I let the customer pay through credit card or a card. Either they pay the fee, and I get the access to the funds right away, and I cooperate, or I could just go do business with you guys. But then you guys, every time I deposit a check, you always mark it down as like, we got to do a 2-week hold, and then it goes back to like, and then you try to say that I need to put money in my bank account when there's clearly money in my bank. You don't want to clear it. So that's how it is with the banking system, where they're like, oh, how come you don't do more business with us? And it's like, dude, because you make it impossible to do business with you. And that's exactly what happens with GCs. We're like, why is no one bidding prevailing wage? Because the response I got when walking in with the people, like, they were pretty happy. They're like, oh, they were pretty excited. But it's the weird term. I'm like, dude, like I could do all this type of work. I could do small little TIs that no one wants to deal with. Small little like remove this toilet, break jackhammer, blah 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 blah, repipe this, a small little $10,000 TI. But on public works, but the bigger companies don't want nothing to do with. But then it's like my terms, so it's like, hey, I just can't go around and float 40, 50 grand. So this is where the weird place I am at, where I have to change and adapt to do what I gotta do. But once, like I said, the hardest thing about anything is always fucking starting. Once you get started and build those relationships, it's fucking easy. Because I got customers that they always pay me before I even start the job, like, and then they're like, oh, you can't do that. I was like, in what way does it make sense that I gotta go and buy all the stuff for you? And I know it's a contractor thing, and they always say it's like, well, this is the law. And I was like, yes, it is, but that only applies to homeowners. I actually read the law. And then they always try to scare you, and they always try to say this is the way the industry works, but that's why no one wants to do public works. I know the money is guaranteed, but who the fuck is gonna fund us through those difficult times, cash flowing? And it's a weird thing that no one wants to change, because once you do this hard stuff, and let's say I do get this, and I build that like the $500,000 on the bank account, and that's my zero, then for me, competitive, it doesn't benefit me trying to change the law. So when you get up to that point, the bigger guys they're like, fuck that. That's how we do business, because it keeps people like me out of their game, where I can't even bid competitively because I can't cash flow 2 to 3 months of expenses. And then they did it, and for them it's an advantage, but for those smaller guys, then it just becomes a little circle. And especially on public works, it's just like the movie fucking War Dogs. Like, they legally have to give some jobs to small operators, and there's little laws that benefit me, and that's where I go in. I'm like, dude, legally, like, you can't just award all these contractors to the same contracts, because it's like there's all these rules, and knowing the rules of the game sometimes is more important than anything else. That's why there's some girls that their wife owns the company because it's a woman-owned business. It's just funny how shit works like that. What if I change my identity, identify as a woman? That's nah, just kidding. But this is where I'm at, where I like doing these videos, because I always like how Alex Ramosi said, it's like, dude, I wish I made more videos of how fucked up this shit was, because I hate when people are like, oh, I wish I was you. Look how lucky you are. And it's like, every day I'm like, fuck this shit. And especially right now with my sales, like, I have to adapt, because if you don't adapt fucking quick, there's motherfuckers out here that are sharks. There's literally, everyone here is a shark, and that's with anything competitively. Everyone wants to be the best, but like when you see like the best, you're just jumping into people that are better funded than you, more experienced, have been doing this longer, and straight up might be better than you. I know everyone has that ego, like I'm the fucking best, but dude, when you enter and start your own business, you're going up against sharks. And I like it. I like to say that I don't like it, but I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing, because it's just the challenge. It's weird to say, but it's like climbing the mountains. It's the most exciting part than being at the top. It's like, fuck, because when you're at the top, you're like, damn, I climbed this mountain, I could really do anything. And like the fact that I'm just like, I just went ahead and going for it. All I gotta do is just reps, go ahead and do it, but it sucks right now. But like I said, Mike Andy said, switch up the model, which I'm doing, which makes sense right now. And I always wanted to go into public works. I always been like, oh, I can't do it. And like I said, it's just about structuring the deal and selling myself, which shouldn't be a problem. So let's see how it works out. Like I said, this is the calculator that Claude built me, and this is just assuming just one guy, and it does all the math, which is pretty cool. And like, obviously we have zero as material costs, and then usually what contractors try to do is net 60U on prevailing wage on public works projects. So this is the reason why no one touches these jobs. They're like, fuck that. So for just one guy, like, I would have to bill at $6,321 We're looking at like $158 an hour, man hour, with 44% margin. So what I gotta float is $3,500 a week. Keep in mind, a week. That's every fucking week. I would have to cash flow a week just for one guy at $3,500, and this is why no one touches that. So let's do something simple, right? It's let's do, well, that would be in a month. So for 1 month, I would have to float 15 grand, and I would have to bill 25 grand. There is money to be made, but like I said, you're floating that. You're floating 15 grand each month. So let's say you got two guys working at 320. That's 320 man hours. So you're floating around 30 grand for 2 months, and this does not include any fucking what's it called, fucking material. That, like, you see the material, like there's literally no material on there. So there's the cloud built this badass calculator. So obviously there's a little healthy profit margins. So the thing is, with prevailing wage, it's hard to compete. It's even harder because everyone is getting a baseline. What I could only offer is like cut down on my margin, and then tell them, like, look, I could do the job for 37, 38, pay myself on certified payroll, and get that job. Like, I could not just mark up my labor of, like 20%, which you should never do. Like, if you ever talk to like someone in business, you can never, don't fucking ever do that. Where's my I would lose my fucking calculator. Where is that? So at 20%, which you should never fucking do, it's pretty fucking bad. Basically, I'm just an employee at a big GC, and I'm like, just basically pay me. Where the fuck is that calculator? Fuck. That's what sucks when cloud builds you these stuff, and then they live in the system. Because I told you, I fucking use cloud like a motherfucker. Don't tell me all I had to do was go up. The amount of information you gotta do. So at 20%, my markup would be $33,000, and that's the only thing I could do is like, yo, I could just bill you at barely any money with no profit, and do this job for you, and basically get a job. Which, that's why I tell people, I'm like, dude, if you're a plumber and you make prevailing wage, you're fucking chilling. But this is California also, so you're making 180,000 to 200K a year just for each employee, and it's so easy to just have to just on labor, just like $500,000. So that's why I tell people, it's like, dude. But like I said, if I don't go into this and just go ahead and take the risk, then I'm never gonna get up. And these are the only guys that are willing. They understand the public works, and I've been doing prevailing wage since I started my apprenticeship, so I know how it goes. It's not that hard. Like I said, there's little small TIs that all you gotta do is move this toilet, reinstall this, and all on prevailing wages, like that's gonna be $5,000, and you're like, what? Even like I said, even if I fix this number at $40 with literally no fucking, no markup. Look at that. Like, just do a week of worth is literally 3,500, and literally there's no fucking money. Oh, that's because it's zero. My bad. You really can't mark up your labor on prevailing wage. So there's literally no money to be made on prevailing wage. but it keeps us busy, and it keeps the cost of operating the business alive for right now, and then until later where I could get bigger and fund bigger projects. Because you got to keep in mind, this is like a small, like, hey, move this toilet from here, and reinstall the sink, and do the finish work. Easily that's a $10,000 project. And then people laugh. We're like, well, why does everything cost so much? It's like, this is the cost of living. But yeah, it's gonna be hard to sell someone, because basically I'm telling them giving me a job at the same time they'll give me a job. Because, like, dude, I can't cash flow 50 to 60 grand for 2 months. It's almost impossible. That's why I laugh when people are like, I'm gonna start my business. I'm like, welcome to pain. Like I said, the sharks, there's people that are out there that have the money. And just because you're a big company doesn't mean you make money. I've been in companies where they go bankrupt, and everyone thinks they got to figure out, and then you see the big guys that think they got figured out go lose hella fucking money, because these numbers are so crazy. If you underbid jobs on prevailing wage, you lose a shitload of money. That's why no one likes to touch these jobs, because either you break even on every job, or you always lose money. And honestly, the only way for people to make money is like for a small shop, for us, for like me, to actually be competitive. But then we go back to the cash flow issue. It's gonna be hard to cash flow this, but I think we're at a point where I have no other option right now. So let's change public works.